Hey guys, so in today's webinar, we're going to be talking about financial planning for freelancers and consultants. So in this topic, we're going to talk in depth about the challenges that most freelancers and consultants face when it comes to managing their money and finances. And over the course of this webinar, we'll talk about how to go about doing financial planning for your freelancing and consulting business. So before we start off, a quick intro. I'm Devika and I head content and growth here at Open. I've been with Open for over 5 years now, and over the period of this time, we have simplified business banking for over 35 lakh small businesses across India. And since I handle marketing, over this period, we have also worked with a lot of passionate freelancers and consultants, and that's when we realized that banking is broken for you guys too. In order to simplify this, we joined hands with Axis Bank to create Open Flo, a digital banking platform that comes with a digital current account built exclusively for freelancers and consultants. And the best part about this is that it comes with all the tools that you would need to run your freelancing business, right from payments, invoices, accounting, and taxes. So today on this webinar, I'm joined by my colleague Kunal. Kunal, thank you so much for taking time to join us on this webinar. Would love an intro from your end.
Yes, thanks Devika. Hi, I'm Kunal. I'm a chartered accountant by profession and I've been working with Open Financial Technologies for the past 2 years. You know, during this course, I've interacted with many consultants who have been working with us, and also in my past career experience. More often than not, personal banking and business banking, for freelancers and consultants kind of mixed. So today, it's a great opportunity to address, most of the queries, or, some of them what we've heard from that, how we can solve or how we can segregate both the personal banking and business banking.
Yeah, true. So, even since we handle marketing, over the span that I've worked here as well, we've worked with a lot of consultants and freelancers, and there's a lot of challenges that they face in terms of invoices. Has the payment come through? I want to raise a partial advance payment. How do I go about it? And there's a lot of back and forth that goes. It's kind of a struggle for us because we struggle in terms of giving them clarity. And at the same time, we have realized that they also struggle in terms of clarity on their business end, right? And when Open decided to do this offering for freelancers, it kind of blended in with the challenges that we have faced ourselves while working with them, like
Yes.
you realized, like you just spoke about, right? So, so Kunal, do you want to talk a bit about the kind of challenges that they face? To be honest, like I have often felt that the challenge that they face is primarily because of the nature of the cash flow that accompanies this business. There's a lot of up and down by nature of their freelancing business. So do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yes. The first primary challenge comes from the fact that a freelancer and a consultant is understanding the tax, the tax regime, right? Just to give an example. Now, a consultant, need not be registered under the GST Act if
Sure.
his income is not crossing 20 lakhs. Now, someone would say, how would someone really track my income? It's simple. Today, everything is available with the government through bank statements, through on the tax portal. You just give your PAN number, and all the transactions are available. So it's very important for someone to really segregate the business income and the personal income, so that you understand whether I need to be registered under GST or not. That's the first primary challenge.
True.
The second challenge is also to know, more often they forget that if you're running a business, there's a lot of expenses that can be taken as a deduction by
true.
reducing your tax liability. So that's another challenge which people, fail to understand, that why is it important to segregate personal
Why is it
banking.
important to categorize your income
Yes.
expenses as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So Kunal, so one of the things that we have seen that has come up in most of our conversations with freelancers and consultants, is that do I really need a separate current account? Do I need a separate bank account for my freelancing or consulting business, right? So, and I feel it kind of goes back to how do these people actually start out. So even in my friend circle, or I'm sure in your friend circle as well, when I have, there are these folks who start off with, as a side gig, as a side project, with one project here, one project there that they pick up here now and then, right? And at that pace, they don't really need a separate account, right? They're just looking at one or two projects, and they kind of use their personal savings account itself to receive those client payments. But a couple of years later, when they kind of consider this freelancing or consulting as a serious gig, right, as a full-time job, it kind of becomes a business of their own. So they're kind of, in a way, on the way to becoming like a solo entrepreneur of their own, right? So at that point, I feel is when they kind of need a separate bank account, because at that point when they're looking at multiple projects back to back, at any point when they want to understand has an invoice payment come through, they will have to sit down, go through all their bank statements to in reference and check, okay, and this UTM code okay, so this payment has come through, right? And at the same time, they also, if they kind of managing a bigger project where they're working with other freelancers and other consultants simultaneously, they will also have to do payouts to those freelancers, and there they kind of struggle to understand that expense against another expense that they've done for their business, right?
Yes.
So with all of this, they struggle to understand that I've been doing multiple projects a month, and there's a lot of money that has been coming in, but at the end of the day, when I look back into my account, where has that money gone? What are the kind of expenses I've had? Is my business actually growing? I'm working on multiple projects, but is it actually growing? What is the income versus expense kind of a ratio that I'm looking at, right? So all of this, they fail to find answers for that if they have a same account to manage their personal and business finances, because it's a complete mess where they're all kind of intermingled with each other, right? I think that is the point where they actually need a separate bank account for their business. So do you want to talk about that a bit?
Actually, it's very relatable to even in a personal life. For example, when you using your credit card, 2 months back, even you don't know where you spend your credit card. Okay, suddenly you will see okay, I paid it to XYZ party. I was like, what is this for? I just yesterday's case, I was asking my wife, hey, I've spent this money, I don't know where I spent. And she's like, okay, give me your account, I'll manage your account. So typically, even for every business, they go through this process. You're in a journey, you want to build, you want to grow, right? Once you're done with the year, you have to reflect back. You have no idea, okay, from whom did I get this money? Okay, and if I've paid someone, for which project I've paid.
Yeah, so that being the bigger concern, you're not able to map it to each project. Okay, fine, as a person, you might understand that I have made these expenses, but you're not able to map it to under each project, because that also plays a critical role in how you communicate to the client, how you talk about payment terms to the client, right? So without that clarity, maybe in one project you're trying to figure those bits, but only if you have that clarity can you place those bits in place and talk to your client in a similar manner in the next project that you pick up, right? So that also is a huge struggle for freelancers and consultants, I feel.
Yeah, project profitability is very key. Unless, there's no separate bank account, it's very difficult to track profitability for each project. Most of them, use Excel Excel sheets for managing.
Spreadsheets of sorts,
But that does not really, it takes a lot of time. I've used Excel spreadsheets, specifically for, managing some of my friends, as they work as a freelancer or consultants. Kinds of becomes very difficult for me to, get an answer from them that where they have spent this money or for what. They know that they've spent this money, but for what, they don't know. So, that's where it becomes very critical to separate out your personal finance and business finance. It's a very critical aspect because a lot of things revolves around your business finance. For example, there was a case 2 years back where I came across a person having collected so much of money in a personal account, ended up paying a VAT liability. VAT is our taxes. Suddenly officer came and asked, okay, you have so much of income in your personal account, you have to pay taxes on this. And he was clueless as to how did this happen. It's a typical case of why there's this desperate need to have a separate business account.
Yeah, I think it's more of, as we hear the term freelancer being thrown around, or as a consultant being thrown around here and there on a very casual basis. And sometimes while they're working on so many projects simultaneously at the same time, they're managing and hustling and juggling so many things, they don't really, I think it takes a while for them also to sink in that this is actually a business that they're running as a full-time business, as a full-time business, and they need to look at it with that level of seriousness when it comes to managing payments and doing your taxes and your accounting and all of that, right? Now, another question that I hear now and then is, okay, fine, I agree. I think I kind of understand that I need a separate account. But how easy is it for me as a freelancer or a consultant to open an account? What kind of documentation would you need? And, I don't know if I will have all of that in place to actually go ahead and approach a bank and open an account, right? So do you want to talk about that a bit?
There's a myth around, opening a business current account for freelancers or any businesses is that I need to have a shops and establishment registration, I need to have GST registration.
GST comes out so often, there are a lot of questions around. Even if you just go on YouTube and search, like, do I need a GST to open an account? Is GST mandatory? How do I get one? How do I decide if as a freelancer, is it the right time for me to apply for a GST registration,
Yes.
right? Yeah, please go ahead.
So ideally, that's the beauty of the act is that if you're starting off your business and you do not know where you're going to reach, it's okay to not have a GST registration because there's a threshold, right? Only once you cross the threshold is when you need those documents. But to start off a current account, just your PAN and Aadhaar is sufficient to start a current account. Because the way entire rules have been structured is to simplify businesses. If you're starting out individually, it's to help you. There's a requirement of not having these documents upfront is that you're starting out, you do not know where you're going to reach, and hence we are giving you a short, fastest time to open a current account. And these days, if I remember correctly, banks support us in opening a current account in 3 working days. Especially, some bank like Axis, they're working with Open to open the account, by just getting
true.
these documents.
So you don't actually need a GST.
No.
Like you said, if your business is not at a stage where it requires a GST registration, you don't need to apply for a GST to open a current account. You can just open a current account with a PAN and Aadhaar card, and this actually comes across as new, although it's been the case for a while, right? In your conversations, especially with the conversation that we've had with freelancers and consultants for a while, I've seen that especially among freelancers, it's a new bit. Not many of them know that they can actually proceed in that direction. They feel there's some kind of a catch somewhere. What is that? What is the thing that I should be aware of, right? But it's so easy. You can easily open an account with just a PAN card and an Aadhaar and apply for an individual current account and separate your account and have so much of clarity over your freelancing finances. Okay, so now one of the main things that most freelancers end up talking about if you meet them, right? They talk about tracking client payments. That's like a huge pain point that they talk about, right? So mostly when you are a freelancer or a consultant and you're working with clients, right, you tend to have a standard price for most projects, right? And today it's considered to be good practice to split your project in phases and ask the client for an advance payment when you start out, and then the payment comes through as and when the phase progresses. So as and when work gets done and you sit with the client and finalize it, once it's good to go, then the payment comes through and then you proceed to the next stage of work, right? And since most projects are priced at a similar scale or similar level, when your payment comes through for multiple projects, it's a similar amount that is coming through and you're struggling to figure out, is this for client A or is it for client C, right? And what is the stage that I had worked on and what is the stage of payment that has come through? And if you're having even if you have a separate bank account, unless it's like really categorized properly, it's a huge pain point to track this, right? And this is something that everyone talks about, right? Even irrespective of whether you're sourcing clients from your word of mouth, from other clients that you're working with, or whether it's from Fiverr, Upwork, irrespective of that, tracking this is like a huge pain point. So do you want to talk about that?
Yes. So, this is a biggest, one of the biggest challenges, because for example, if someone makes a payment using a UPI, right?
Yeah.
All you get is a UPI number. And imagine if you're getting say 10 similar payments of the same amount, you have to track whether this UPI number, who does this belong to. We do not have so much of time in current era because you're progressing, right? So,
and as a freelancer, you would want to focus on the project that you're working on and the deadlines and client calls and all of that, and you don't want to spend time figuring, has this client A paid me or not, right? Yeah, please.
And the other thing is also, as you mentioned, right, these days many of them structure the payments in a phased manner because they have their own obligations to someone else. Now today, if I'm continuously making payments from my personal account itself, I may have X balance at the beginning of the year from my personal account. At the end of the year, I'm figuring out, hey, where did the balance really go? Did I not collect it from this customer, or have I missed it from this customer? It becomes very difficult if you're really not managing through in a more systemized and organized way. Because, today it might be this much, tomorrow it might be this much, and the time that you'll take to manage this much is insane. And then you'll be like, okay, I should have gone to some other better tool to manage this.
So like I said, with a typical client, when you start out, right, you might start out with say like a logo, right? Then you move on to say brand guidelines, design guidelines. So it's a progressive project, one after the other. And in every project, most freelancers and consultants these days, they start out with like an advance payment, and as and when the project progresses, at each phase you have a payment that comes through, right? So for each of these, you'll have an invoice that comes in and then you have to track against that. So if you're not looking for a tool, typically what they do is they maintain folders, Excel sheets. So it's like a folder inside another folder. Then they have to track that, figure which payment, which client, and then it's not just tracking payments against invoice number, but also tracking payments against clients, because you work with typically a freelancer and a consultant. If they work with a client once, you tend to work with them over different projects as well, right? So you have a folder within folder, you have multiple documents, invoice payments, multiple Excel sheets that you maintain, and it's like a complete chaos, like to go back and check, even if you want to check, or if your CA wants you to verify something, it's a total different pain, going through that, right? And there are online tools as well, but it's not easy, navigating those tools. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
So in my case also, I've been through situations where client documents were saved in multiple folders. Like you have April, then you have May, then suddenly financial year changes, but the work is still continuing, and then you create one more new folder. So it's all over the place, right? So unless you have a project wise, where you can see the summary, okay, this is the total project, at least as long as you're saving your contract in one folder, and then you have one consolidated platform to manage your payments, invoices, and collections, and where you can see, let's take an example, if I have to search, say, for Kunal, or say I have to search for Devika, I get, okay, with Devika, I have so much of invoices raised, and those are collected, okay, this is my contract value, hey, done. It simplifies the process. But if I don't have, I'm raising everything manually, money is coming into a personal account, I have a contract, Excel file is uploaded, it's the same Excel file is copied somewhere else, but it's not updated. It becomes a very chaotic process.
Yeah. So that is why a lot of tools. I'm sure there are a couple of tools. A tool that gives you a one picture view. Wherein you can understand payment against invoice number and also payment against client. That one picture view is like making life so much easier. Makes life so much easier for any freelancer and consultant out there, right?
Yes.
And a lot of struggle also comes with actually understanding what, as a freelancer or consultant, what will actually simplify their life so that it saves them a lot of time and hassle of having to deal with all of that alongside managing a client or getting new clients and all of that, right? So, one of the aspects that I have seen is that they understand, okay, I need a separate account. I need to send out invoices and bills, and I need to manage my clients and my vendors. And vendor payments among freelancers is also something that's not so much talked about. Like you go online and search for what is a challenge that a freelancer or consultant face. Lots of them are about, I need to send out branded invoices, I need to make an invoice that's professional, I need to track those payments. But if you are working on a big freelance project, most consultants and freelancers, they tend to collaborate with other freelancers and consultants, and they want to maintain that network in which they can work together and take on bigger projects and bigger clients as well, and those payments that you make to those people whom you collaborate with at every stage, like I said, if it's a progressive project wherein you have set up different phases, at every phase when a client gives you a payment, you need to make payments to these other people whom you're collaborating with as well, right? And that can also be a challenge because, again, there's a lot of project management that goes into play, and figuring out what are those expense payments that you do and then categorizing them in a way, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about categorizing your income and your payments, expenses?
It's a very very good touch point actually, especially on the expense side, because we all know, okay, income, let's take an example, you've put all your efforts and you've got your income, but end of the day, what boils down to is your expenses, and whether you have to pay taxes as well, whether these expenses can be considered as a deduction. When I say deduction, can I reduce, can it help me simplify my taxes, right? I'll give you a very classic example, a dinner expense or a lunch expense, right? It can be personal, it can be professional, but if it's going from one account, it's going to be very difficult for you to prove whether this is for personal lunch or dinner expense for my family, or is it for my for my client or for my professionals that I've been working with. Because clearly the tax laws only allows you to claim expenses only if you have incurred for your businesses, right? So if you don't categorize your expense, whether it's for professional or personal reasons, you're not going to really help, it's not going to help you to save your taxes. Second is also, there are certain kind of expenses which are more of capital in nature. Let's take an example. I'm say buying a car. Now with that car, whether again it's used for personal or business, that's something that need to segregate. The third, which I can think of these days more common, is the software expenses. There are subscriptions.
Yeah.
Again, the subscriptions are for personal, for business. Unless you clarify, you have a proper way of benchmarking or segregating this, it's only going to be very difficult for you to prove against the authorities that, hey, this is my business expenses, this is my personal expenses.
Yeah, not just that, even like if even you when you're starting out, mostly I have seen when people in my circle as well, they have a accountant or someone whom they work with to manage all their taxes, so that it's at least that pain doesn't come as a burden on them. But even there, like when you're working with a accountant or a CA, whoever, during your tax filing time and all, you need to give them some kind of a structured data that they can go through, right? And oftentimes, you send them whatever they need, and then they'll be like, I still need to sit with you because I'm struggling to understand whether some of these were for your personal bits or your business bits, right? Because there's a lack of clarity there. It seems like they kind of mixed up a little bit here, right? So structured data is something that, it'll make life simpler for you as a freelancer or a consultant who's running your own business, and also for your CA or your accountant at the end of the year, when they are looking to get work done. It saves a lot of time on either end, right?
So actually, I'm a CA, right? So if you come and ask me, hey, Kunal, this is my statement, please calculate my tax liability and show it to me. Boss, if I have to go through your entire statement, I'm going to charge you a bomb. Okay.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, even for them, because they charge by hour, right? So unless you are also giving them in a structured way, then they can provide you more valuable suggestions as to what can be done. But if you're not giving them in a structured way, then you might just end up spending a little bit more, which ideally you wouldn't want to. So that's where, managing this expenses is very critical from a business point of view, because you're running a business, you're not a individual. Even this can be applicable for a sole proprietor. It can be applicable for anyone who's running his business in his own name, right? It can be even a trader. But having a separate bank account is very much necessary, especially on this aspect.
Kunal, when you were talking about expenses and categorizing income and expenses, right? I think one thing that most of them struggle is also having a good understanding of what are these, which are these expenses that will come under deduction. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Every business have a certain set of expenses that, which you're bound to incur, irrespective of what are you in trading, are you in consulting, or you basically any kind of business has a certain set of expenses. Now, the first basic criteria, like I highlighted, was first to distinguish between what's your personal expense and what's your professional expense. Now, when we talk about professional, I mean, that's your business expenses, your marketing spends, right? You're buying, so basically you're promoting on Instagram, you're promoting on Facebook. It may be through your personal name, but ultimately it's for your business, right? So that's an expense that you can claim as a deduction, right? Second, your fuel expenses. Now, people say that, hey, fuel is can be personal, can be for business. But ideally, if you during the week you're traveling for meetings, you're traveling say outstation for work, then you can claim this as deduction. Unless you have, say, sometimes what happens is when work gets done, you also have your your personal trip. It's very important to distinguish, because sometimes for your business, if you claim too much of expense, it goes as a question mark that is this a really business expense? So somewhere you need to draw a line as to what's my professional expense and what's my business expense and what's my personal expense. That's the second. Third thing, say you're subscribing to LinkedIn or you're subscribing to some tools, maybe in your private name, but it's to grow your connections. Such expenses are also allowed. Okay. Fourth, you're buying a computer, you're buying a laptop, right? Again, it's for your business, right? So there's a depreciation amount that can be claimed as per the rules. That is also your business expense, Then next thing is you're paying money to someone for some advisory fee, right? That is also a business expense. So that can also be claimed as a deduction. You're buying any software, basic, say, a tally accounting software, or it can be, say, these days you have a lot of, design based for designing.
The SAP subscriptions.
The SAP subscriptions, right? Even those, if used for your business, is an expense that can be claimed as deduction. So if you're marking your expenses very much categorically that, yes, these are my business expenses, it helps you manage your taxes efficiently. And also, well, like I spoke about, if your auditor is asking for the details,
Yeah, true.
even he is in a much more better position to advise you that, hey, this is your tax P&L. Basically, only on this amount you need to pay tax, because I've already factored that these are the expenses that you have incurred for your businesses.
Yeah, true. So, so we spoke a lot about how categorizing your income and expenses and all, how that will give you clarity and how that will actually help you and your CA as well in this picture, right? You said. So now it goes back into, how do you manage your cash flow better? This is something that comes up time and again in different conversations and different contexts that we talk to, right? So I think cash flow is a very tricky thing for a freelancer because of the nature in which they run their freelancing or consulting business, right? Like we said, you work on a project, right? And you take an advance payment. So say I have spoken to a client, I've banked a project this month, and this month I'm saying that I've decided on the payment terms and I've asked for an advance payment this month, in the month of May, right? So I would have a payment that comes in this month for the work I'm doing this month, and probably part of the work that I'm doing in the month of June as well. So this month my income might look like a little bit on the higher side, whereas next month my income might look a little on the lower side, because I've already taken a client project and I might not have the bandwidth to take on another project, right? So typical freelancer cash flow has its own ups and downs, and this is the case with all good freelancers. It's not like you're doing bad at your freelancing or consulting job, right? For any good freelancer or consultant as well, they have these ups and downs because of the nature of in which you take freelancing projects or consulting projects, right? So there it becomes very critical to know how to manage your cash flow, because if you don't know, or if you're not very clear on how to go about managing it, you might find yourself at the at the lower end, wherein you're struggling on cash to actually run your business. So do you want to talk about how you can actually go about managing it in a much smoother way?
So, very much, rightly said, every business has their own cyclical trends, right?
Yeah.
And not necessarily that, for example, first 6 months might be very slow or might be lull, but the next 6 months will be a boom.
Yeah, true.
So, as long as you have a visibility of your cash flows, maybe from prior years also. So if you have a cash flow statement, which can show you weekly basis, monthly basis, the trends of where the income has come from and where I've spent, okay, then only you can start projecting that in the next coming 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, am I good? Am I not good? Do I need additional support in terms of, say, finances from bank, or do I have excess cash? This helps you manage your liquidity.
Yeah.
Because let's take an example now, typical example now, April, May, June is considered to be a holiday season, right? Because of a lot of exams getting over students. Now, let's take an example, your consultant who's catering to a travel industry, tourism industry. April, May, June, you'll have excess cash flows coming in, because you're doing a lot of promotions, you're doing a lot of advertisement, you're doing a lot of activities around that. The next 9 months, again, you'll have cyclical trends, that when is the next vacation, when to promote, that income might not be regular. So if you have 3 months of excess cash flow, you can park these funds in a temporary investments. For example, it can be fixed deposit, okay, it can be a recurring deposit, it can be mutual funds, it can be any kind of investments that helps you, to generate additional safe returns that you would expect. So, it's very important to have visibility of your existing cash flows to again predict future trends.
Yeah. Part of that is also, like when we mentioned about having a separate account and all of that, right? It is also a question that, it is a good practice to actually have a monthly salary that you draw from that. So you actually park, like you said, parking a regular amount that goes as a monthly salary to you yourself as a freelancer or a consultant. So like you said, when you maintain a buffer, you also know a amount that you need on a monthly basis. This much is an amount that I need to maintain as a buffer, because this is my monthly income this is an amount that I'm parking as a monthly income that goes to me, or if I have 2 to 3 people whom I'm kind of working with on a regular basis, then this is the kind of income that I'm parking as a monthly salary that goes to them. So I know that this is the buffer that I mean to maintain. That goes a long way into giving you clarity on your cash flow, right?
When you mix your personal and current business banking, right, business finance, very rightly said that drawing salaries from your business is very important. If you're having one account, you may just end up not having clarity whether I am sufficient enough to let my business also have some cash flows to sustain itself at the same time I'm drawing salary. But if all the monies is parked together, you don't know whether it's an investment in business or it's a profit from business. You really don't have that clarity, visibility. So like you said that, once you have a cash flow, it gives you a very good perspective whether I am confident enough to draw some salaries, which is like a return, or you can say a fixed income that keeps coming to me, and I don't have to worry about whether my business has sufficient cash flows to keep running itself. So it's very important to have.
So to that, at this point we've come to the crux of the entire webinar, that is financial planning, right? So we have spoken about bits here and there at every stage when it comes to cash flow, tracking payments. At every bit there was an input or a point or something that we mentioned, I think, in terms of what could be a bonus tip on how to go about doing your financial planning better. So do you want to talk a little bit in depth about it?
Yes. So once the year is done, obviously you look back and say that what's my tax liability, and that's a like a curiosity. You're calling your accountant, hey, what's my tax liability, what's my tax liability, what's my tax liability, and then you figure out your accountant says that hey, you've not done your financial planning. And that's where your tax liability is, and then you have that sulking face, right? So that's where once you have your cash flow visibility, it's important also to keep in mind that Government of India has done beautifully in terms of giving you certain deductions to help you minimize your tax liabilities. Now, to give an example, so let's say you're in a business and you know that it's doing, month on month it's doing good. So then what you can do is also, start planning for some ATC investments.
Yeah.
When I say ATC investments, it gives you a deduction of 1.5 lakh. Now imagine if I go back to a, freelancer and consultant as an advisor and say that, hey, in the month of March, why don't you invest 1.5 lakh? It'll help you reduce your liability. And you'll be like, okay, where should I pull out this 1.5 lakh from? It becomes a more of a challenge. So it's good to start, when you're doing a business, at least you need to know that at the end of the year, if I'm expecting some profits or I'm expecting good amount of profits, start saving monthly. It makes your journey a more simpler process. So for example, if I have to say invest 1.5 lakh over 12 months, all I need to do is maybe say, withdraw 12,000 from the business and invest. The possible modes are say SIPs, which is like investment mutual funds. Then you have fixed deposits for 5 years. If you're confident that you don't need this money for 5 years, then you have, a lot of government bonds, where you can invest. Then you have national savings certificate. There are various alternatives, where you can really invest. The second most important thing, beyond taxes is also to understand when I need to register for GST. Right now, imagine you have a tool or a platform that says that, hey, your income for the year, the billing for the year is more than 20 lakhs. Then that's a trigger point for you to register under GST. Right? Under GST also you have various options. So if you're in a business of 20 lakhs to 1.5 CR, you have to just pay GST on GST at the rate of 6% under composite scheme. Composite is for a small businesses. So that's another way of looking at it, because as a consultant, as a freelancer, you're not expecting any GST invoices from your other consultants, right? So that's where it's important for you to understand that if you're breaching 20 lakhs, then you need to really register for GST immediately. And these days, GST registration is a very simpler process, right? That's the second thing. Third thing is, let's take an example. As a consultant, you're making payments to other consultants because for your projects, right? And if those cross a particular threshold, then the tax deduction upfront on each payments come into perspective. So these are the things that will help you save from penalties, because these penalties are huge. So it will ultimately impact your cash flow. So if you have these things sorted, all of this through one single platform, it really helps you simplify your life and save a lot of money.
Okay. So I think, now that we've gone in depth into financial planning for freelancers and all of that, I think we've almost come towards, the final part of the webinar. So here, I think one thing that I want to stress about a lot is that, whether you're doing financial planning as a freelancer or a consultant, it kind of also differs based on the stage of your business, right?
Yes.
You might be someone what is right for you when you're just starting out your freelancer consulting career, to someone who's kind of like, you're kind of growing it, a very serious page. So someone who's actually kind of settled in. You have a couple of projects that you're working on. You pick up some new clients here and there. You have a name in the industry, right? So depending on every stage of your freelancing and consulting business, the pace at which you handle each of these things that we discussed, right, from cash flow to tracking payments to even your financial planning, the stage at which you handle that is kind of different based on what stage your business is at, right? So if you're a freelancer or a consultant who is looking to learn a lot about managing your taxes, managing your finances, or looking to get new clients, increasing the pricing of your freelance project, then do tune into and subscribe to Open Flo. We put up a lot of insightful content every week. So on that note, before we tune out, I want to talk a little bit about Open Flo. Open Flo is a digital banking platform that is built exclusively for freelancers and consultants like you. And we have a digital current account that caters to the needs of every freelancer and consultant out there, especially the part that it kind of brings all these business tools that you would need for your freelance and consulting business, right from payments to your invoicing to your accounting and taxes in one single place. I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of the platform right now. So this is the Open Flo website. Once you land on the website, click on this Get Started button here to sign up on the Open Flo platform. Now I have already signed in. So you will land on the dashboard, and on this dashboard you'll be able to see your Axis Bank digital current account, the account number and your account balance. On the left side you'll see all the other features that you can leverage on this platform. So let's go check out invoices. Now here you can click on create to create an invoice. You can choose to upload a logo if there's anything specific that you want to include in your invoices, and maybe add a description. Once that is done, you can choose to include the name of the client that you want to send this invoice to. So I am just adding a client here. Once you include the name of the client, you can include the email ID as well and the mobile number, and you can save the contact. You can check out the invoice number, the start date, the due date, the item. So I'm just including an item here. Then you can specify the quantity, the price, and once all the other details look good, the next most important part here is that you can categorize this income. So this will go a long way into giving you a good idea of your cash flow. So you click on this here, and this is part of sales, so I'm categorizing it under sales. And once I've done that, I can click on save and continue. And now once that invoice has been created, you can always go back and edit the invoice, but if everything is good to go, you can approve the draft. And the next step is to choose the mode of payment. Now, if you're looking to get paid online, you can enable this. And as with any other freelance or consulting project, if you're looking to receive an advance payment from your client, then you can click on this checkbox and allow your clients to make partial online payments, right? If not, and you're looking to go via bank transfers, get paid via bank transfers, you can enable this as well. And once you're finalized on your mode of payment and you're looking to proceed ahead, you can click on send invoice, and the invoice will go out to your client, right? Now, once you go back and look at this invoices tab, here you'll be able to see all the invoices that have been sent out, and the status of each invoice, and the total amount that is due, and the amount that has been received, right? In a similar scale, if you click on a customer, right, you'll be able to view the status, view all the invoices and the amount that is due and paid by each customer. So for example, if I click on Vimal, I'll be able to view the total amount that he has paid, the total amount that is due, and the list of invoices that have already been sent to Vimal. So if you have sent out over a period of time, you've sent out 2 to 3 invoices, you will see all the invoices listed here. So it gives you a bird's eye view or a one picture view of all your invoices, your payments, the status of each, and you're totally on top of your income, right? Now the next part is, if you're looking to make a payment to a vendor or say another freelancer or a consultant whom you're collaborating with. So click on this create button here, and you can choose the account that you want to make a payment from. Here I have choose the Axis Bank account that I've opened, and you can choose the contact that whom you want to send it to. So I'm sending it to a contact of mine, so I can click on that, and I can include the account number, IFSC code, bank, and all of that. Once I have included all those details, I can call out the amount and choose the mode of payment. And here as well, I'll be able to categorize the income. So say if I am categorizing the income as say dues and subscription, so that is there. And then once everything looks good, if you click on next, that bill payment will go out. So here as well, if you click on vendor, you'll be able to see all the payments that all the payment for each vendor, the total amount that you have paid, how much is outstanding against each, and the bills that you send out to them. You can view all of them here in one single place. Right now, we've spoken about how you can categorize income and expenses at other places. How will this actually help you? So this is where it comes all into play. That is when you go to the report section here. When you go to cash flow, right, and if you've already categorized your income and expenses earlier, right, here you will see your total money in, the money out, and it will give you all the categories that you listed out earlier, right? So this will give you a full picture view of your cash flow, and you will be able to make better decisions on how to grow your business. So this is a quick overview of the entire platform. With that, we come to the end of this webinar. So thank you so much, Kunal, for taking time out and being part of this. Right?
Thank you, Devika.
It was a very insightful session. So yes, do stay tuned in. We will be doing more webinars of this sort. So yes, okay, see you guys soon.